Hi guys! So I hope you're okay, and today I wanted to tell you the story of the Shaggs, which is quite an uncommon story in the history of rock and roll. Just for your information, I've made another video about another unusual story about Sixto Rodriguez, so if you would like to watch the video, the link to the video is just here and in the description. Of course, if you would like to support me, do not hesitate to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment. In 1969, a trio of teenage sisters from rural New Hampshire, lead guitarist Dot Wiggin, rhythm guitarist Betty Wiggin, and drummer Helen Wiggin, were forced by their father to record an album, even though they had very limited musical training, experience, and expertise. The saga of the Shaggs began with their paternal grandmother, a psychic who saw the destiny of the group in a palm reading that she did for her young son, Austin Wiggin Jr. The woman predicted that Austin would marry a strawberry blonde, that they would have two sons whom she would not live to see, and that the Wiggin girls would form a band that would make them famous. When the first two prophecies came true, Austin devoted his life to making the third a reality. After marrying his wife Annie, Austin supported her and their children Dot, Betty, Helen, Rachel, Austin III, and Robert by working in a textile mill in Exeter, New Hampshire. The family lived in Fremont, New Hampshire, a small town 50 miles from Boston. After noting the success of the Beatles, Austin Wiggin decided that the time had come for his mother's prophecy to be fulfilled. In 1967, he pulled his daughters out of school, enrolled them in correspondence courses, bought them instruments, assigned them roles in the band, and signed them up for music and voice lessons. Their father set up a rigid schedule for the new group, which he named the Shaggs after a then-popular sheepdog-like hairstyle. The girls, who had a minimal social life, studied and rehearsed in the morning, played more music in the afternoon, and did calisthenics before finishing their day with another rehearsal. Their main musical influences came from the radio. They especially liked perky English rockers Herman Hermits, among other teen idol performers. In 1968, the Shaggs played their first gig at a talent show in Exeter. When they performed the country song Wheels, the group was jeered at and pelted with soda cans. The girls were mortified, but they continued to practice diligently under their father's strict supervision. Austin convinced Fremont administrator to allow the Shaggs to become the house band for Saturday night dances at the local town hall. Over 100 kids, nearly all the teenagers in Fremont actually, usually attended these events. Some would dance while others would heckle the Shaggs and pelt them with trash. Austin Wiggin felt that his children were ready to make a record. He booked studio time at Fleetwood Studios in Revere, Massachusetts in March 1969. When the studio engineer heard the Shaggs rehearse, he told Austin that they were not ready for professional recording. Austin replied that he wanted to get them while they were hot. After their recording session, the Shaggs had a dozen songs on tape. The studio released a single on Fleetwood Records that featured the song My Pal Foot Foot, a paean to Dot's missing, double-amputated grey cat.
My pal's name is Foot Foot, he always likes to roam. My pal's name is Foot Foot, I never find him home. I go to his house, knock at his door. People come out and say, Foot Foot, don't live here no more. My pal Foot Foot.
Over time, the song came to be considered the band's signature tune. Shortly after its release, two members of Fleetwood staff, Charlie Dreyer and Bobby Hearn, started their own company, Third World Recording, in Jamaica Plain, Massachusetts. When Dreyer offered to press and distribute the Shaggs album on the Third World label, Austin Wiggin agreed. Dreyer pressed 1,000 copies of Philosophy of the World, but only 100 survived. It is unclear whether Dreyer absconded with the rest. They may have been thrown away, actually. The surviving records were sold locally and were given to friends and relatives. Philosophy of the World included earnest, hopeful songs about relationships, Halloween, Jesus, and wanting a sports car, among other subjects. The tunes were played in a jangly but discordant style. After recording their album, the Shaggs returned to the Fremont Town Hall dances, adding younger sister Rachel on bass. They also played at nursing homes, hospitals, and county fairs. In 1973, the dances were cancelled by local administrators, who cited fighting, drug use, and scuff marks on the floor to the town hall as their reasons. At the age of 28, Helen Wiggin married Henry, a man who she had met at the Saturday night dances. Afraid to tell her father, she lived at home for 3 months. When the truth came out, Austin went after Henry with a shotgun and kicked Helen out of the Shaggs. In 1975, Austin took the Shaggs, with Helen reinstated, back into the studio, where they recorded the tunes that made up their second album, Shaggs' Own Thing, a work not released until 1982. After the death of their father, the Shaggs disbanded. All of them married, had children, and gave up music. Meanwhile, Austin's legacy began to take shape. Rare copies of Philosophy of the World were discovered and passed around among collectors. Boston radio station WBC and FM played some cuts from the album and introduced it to progressive musicians such as Frank Zappa, who began championing the band. In 1976, Zappa told Playboy magazine that the Shaggs were better than the Beatles, even today, and he named Philosophy of the World as his third favorite album of all time. In 1980, Terry Adams, keyboardist for the rock band NRBQ, arranged for Philosophy of the World to be reissued on his band's Red Rooster label, a subsidiary of Rounder Records. 2 years later, Red Rooster issued the album Shaggs' Own Thing. And in 1988, the albums were combined and released on compact disc as The Shaggs. These reissues only magnified the band's reputation. The Shaggs continued to find favour among cutting-edge musicians such as Kurt Cobain, Carla Bley, and John Zorn. They were cited as an influence by rock groups such as Sonic Youth, Yo La Tengo, and Del Milkmen. The latter paid homage to the Shaggs in their song When I Get to Heaven on the album Stoney's Extra Stout in 1995. In 1999, NRBQ held a 30th anniversary concert at the Bowery Ballroom in New York City. Dot Wiggin and Betty Wiggin, accompanied by NRBQ's Tom Ardolino on drums, played 4 Shaggs songs at the show. This was the first time that the sisters had been on stage in 25 years. That same year, Philosophy of the World was issued on CD in its original form, and journalist Susan Orlean wrote a profile on the Shaggs for The New Yorker. In 2001, Animal World Recordings released Better Than the Beatles, a tribute album to the Shaggs, which included performances of the band's songs by artists such as Stevie Moore and Picking Fellers Union Local 282. In 2003, Joy Gregory wrote the book and lyrics for the stage musical The Shaggs, Philosophy of the World, with music by the Shaggs and Gunnar Madsen, a founding member of the a cappella group The Bobs. The musical was performed at the John Hanson Ford Amphitheater in Los Angeles to great acclaim and was scheduled to open at Chicago's Looking Glass Theater in mid-2004. Since the Shaggs entered public consciousness, critics have been divided about their merits. Some reviewers have claimed that the Wiggin sisters are untalented jocks with no concept of musical structure, while others have called them geniuses who invented a radically brilliant musical lexicon. The sisters' mother, Annie Wiggin, died in 2005, and Helen Wiggin died in 2006. Dot Wiggin released a solo album, Ready Get Go, on Alternative Tentacles Records in October 2013. The album contains new recordings of previously unrecorded Shaggs songs, as well as new songs that Wiggin had written with her band. And recently, Dot and Betty also performed a reunion show in 2017.
Please answer me. I know where you are. You're behind that tree. Foot, please come to me. Foot, now that you're here, won't you come home? Foot, promise me this, that you will never again roam.
that is it for today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time for another uncommon story, of course. Bye!